Hello, everyone. Perfect. Oh boy, that's not perfect. Alright, guys, give me a second. They redid the streaming for... For Facebook. I'm not trying to have double stuffs. Yeah, so as soon I got Brian on the call, and as soon as I unclick mute for Brian, you're going to hear echoes, continuous echoes. And we don't need that. Musky Mangler is home. Why would they do this? I don't have a mute button for the stream that I'm watching. Okay. I believe you got it. So let's unmute Brian. Alright, Brian, you there, bud?
I am.
Just make like some funny noises or whatnot. I want to make sure the viewers are not getting double feedback from you.
Sure. Can everyone hear me just fine?
Alright guys, do you hear double feedback from Brian speaking? Or even myself? Okay, cool. Well, that was a little hiccup, but we got it under control. All right, guys. So welcome, Musky Talk Mondays. Brian from he's the president of the Milwaukee chapter of Musky Inc. So we are going to be discussing some, as usual, southeastern Wisconsin stuff, some north central Wisconsin stuff, and other little things. So, Brian, so far, Musky-wise, how's your year been going?
Personally, my season's gone. I'll give it a okay. I've tried to take on this fly fishing for Musky's game a little bit, and it's been a learning curve. Went from what I consider an experienced musky fisherman to feeling like a complete rookie, but yeah, things were kind of slow. I think all around here in southern Wisconsin, the month of May was a bit tougher for most than some other years.
Yep.
But I think everyone got through it, and then things picked up there pretty good in June. Started to put a number of fish in the boat in all sorts of different ways, too.
Did you get any on the flies yet?
Well, hooked up plenty.
Damn.
Yeah, I was actually up in northern Wisconsin this past weekend and dedicated Saturday to the fly game, and lost two, moved a bunch of others, but yeah, it's something I'm working on. But it's a lot of fun. It's a different challenge, but it's fun to be on the fish with them anyway, and just get the action from them and all that. But yeah, when I'd put down the fly rod for a few days, I was able to always go grab a fish or two here and there. And just 2 weeks ago, I was up north and had a 3-fish day up in Vilas County.
Ooh.
One of those being a real thick mid-40s fish, nice one. So
Nice.
yeah, it's been an interesting season in regards that not many fish are coming on the same tactic. The patterns seem to be a little more short-lived than they have in the past, where you can get a fish on a bucktail or two fish on a bucktail today, and tomorrow you won't even move one, but you could get one on a crank. And they just, to me, I personally feel the fish are pretty scattered this year compared to some other years. Where you've got fish shallow, you've got fish on the inside edge still in July and certain times.
Mm-hmm.
And then, there's fish, all the way out in the middle of the basin suspended, and at every little spot in between those two. So it's nice in regards, you can get away from people on our pressured waters.
Yeah, it's not only one or two hot spots.
Right.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, your son got one this year, correct?
Yeah, my 7-year-old, he's been trying real hard to get his first fish, and I'm not much of a troller at all, as in pretty much never do it. So he had been fishing real hard 4th of July weekend up in Vilas County, and he got tired, he got sore, he asked if we could troll. I looked at my brother who was in the boat with me, and I was like, I guess we'll try to figure this out.
Yeah.
And about, I think it was 4 minutes later, the rod went off.
That is awesome.
Yeah, so he was able to reel it in by himself. He had a little bit of help towards the end to get it towards the net.
Okay.
And then, he got it in, and he's pretty... He was somehow addicted before he caught his first, but now he's very addicted. He wasn't too happy that I was going up north without him this past weekend.
Aw. That's cool. That's too freaking cool.
Yeah, it was great. I got a nice YouTube video of the catch and everything, so it's pretty fun.
I think I saw that. I secretly subscribed to your secret page. It's Musky Buster 69. That's his YouTube page, you guys. So when Musky's Inc. What's going on? When are we starting back up the meetings down around our side of town?
Yeah, you betcha. So we we take a break on the meetings through the majority of the season. We pick up again at the end of September.
Okay, it's the end.
Yeah, it's like the 4th Tuesday of September. So I think that ends up being I don't want to give a date yet because I still got to confirm with our speaker when they can make it and who that speaker will be, even for that matter. But most likely it'll be September 26th.
Okay.
And yeah, we're still working on our speakers for both September and October. Due to a large number of musky fishermen that also bow hunt and all that stuff, we've never really had much success with November meeting attendance.
Okay.
So, and then December, crazy holiday time. So we don't have those in November and December, but September and October we will. We'll probably be targeting. We would like to get someone from either the DNR, UW Stevens Point, and their research side, or maybe someone from USGS, and for at least one of those meetings. There's a lot of things going on with musky management, different studies going on all over the place, and there's a lot to be talked about. So I think that's what we'd like to do, is for those that are interested in that side of thing, give that sort of a speaker. We've done that a number of times the last few years, and every time we get someone from any of those groups, they're extremely informative.
I would love for that to happen. Now, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I would love the typical muskie seminar about how to catch them and stuff like that, but that'd be something different and something very cool.
Yeah, it's really neat to get the perspective, right? Because, like we have a biologist, in Waukesha County, and we're very lucky that he's pro-muskie.
Yes.
When we go to him and say, hey, we've got money, we want to buy more fish, we generally don't have much of an issue getting the permits for the lakes that we're fishing on, or that the DNR currently stocks. So, as well as adding to some that they don't stock, and he's very open to that. So, but the issue comes in, there's a lot of counties in this state and a lot of lakes that need stocking, and the DNR doesn't always have the fish, and just to hear about how they go about figuring out where these fish are going to get stocked when they got short on numbers and things like that, and that decision process. I think it's really good for folks to hear that type of information. It really shows, they've got a tough job, and they do a really good job at doing it.
Well, it's behind the scenes stuff that we never get to see really.
Right, and then also hear all the different research stuff they have going on. We had, Mokachi was part of a pellet survey versus minnow raised fish survey, and there's other things going on and other things we want to do, with them. And so we'd like to kind of just bring all that stuff forward and just say, hey, here's all the stuff we're looking at, and it also gives an opportunity for our members in the area to come to that, hear all that, and then let us know, a type of a research study or, any other stocking exploration and other lakes, bodies of water, things like that. It's a real good avenue because you do have the ear of those that make that decision and sign those permits. Mm-hmm. And it's a great time that if, we can get some numbers there, and, I'm not going to tell people what to say and vote for, but there's plenty of different lakes in our area that definitely could have some muskies introduced to them. And the only way to really kind of push that over the edge is to show that, there's more support than just Brian Mirek yelling at them in their ear,
Now that's an interesting statement. What other possibilities for stocking do you see in the southeastern area of Wisconsin?
Right. So I personally believe that we need to focus a little bit more on the Oconomowoc River system where they currently reside. So, Milwaukee chapter of Muskies Inc., as well as the Muskellunge Club of Wisconsin, for the last couple of years, we've been stocking LaBelle directly. Mm-hmm. Let's add a couple more fish into there and make that a more viable population. It's definitely not short of forage, so more predators was not going to hurt. It was only going to help. We've seen those fish. We get reports from walleye fishermen and bass fishermen. They're catching them left and right. Musky fishermen are catching them. Now they're starting to get big enough to hit our baits, and I see nothing but good things. That population, and we're really not dumping a whole ton into there, because we know that it gets a couple, it gets a shot of fish every whoever who knows how long that filter in from Okachi. Mm-hmm. And so this is just helping build that up. So with that kind of thought process in mind and seeing how well that did downstream, we'd like to see, North Lake is one we would like to begin putting some fish in. Our biologist, and I completely agree with him, we're not going to start doing that until that launch debacle that they have over there gets taken care of and done. Yeah. Not everyone knows this. Some people I say it to, and they seem surprised. There is North does connect to Pine. Is it much of a waterway between the two? No, it's really not. But it is still part of the same system. So I believe we should actually be looking at that a little bit. I know there would need to be a comprehensive lake survey done. I don't know when they have that scheduled next for the DNR, but that would be another one to definitely start putting them in. I mean, they can currently get there now. There's really, we're not introducing anything new to that body of water. We're just introducing more of the same. So that's another one. Now, I think in a perfect world for us musky guys, it'd be great to throw it on the Bark River system that runs through our area as well. So Nag and Upper and Lower Nemahbin and get them in there. Yes. But that, that presents some challenges, and the biologists aren't necessarily, signing those permits readily. And I do understand their side of things, and that, hey, we're introducing them to every lake that then the bark connects to, which is very true and would happen. And there's just a lot that goes into introducing another species into a system like that.
Especially with those lakes that are actually connected by a river. You have to think of the actual whole system itself.
Exactly. So that's currently there. And then I know there's a number of folks that I talk to at shows and just boat ramps and at Smokies or wherever, and they're like, there's a lot of lakes in Washington County, and it's pretty shocking not one of them can get muskies, given that that's, a somewhat close to the metro area, and the metro area has few lakes and, that have muskies. So that's one area I know that there's some folks have some interest in, and I'd like to hear more from people about the different lakes that they would like to see, that happen there and things like that. So, the possibilities are endless. The probabilities are probably a little tighter. And so that's what we just need to get is everyone's ideas and get those in front of us, so then we can bring in, those folks from those other counties, because, we focus mainly on Waukesha County just because that's currently where the majority of the lakes are, but there's definitely some options elsewhere.
All right, so guys, if you have any sort of requests or maybe information or anything regarding muskie stocking or possibilities of muskie stocking, get a hold of Brian over here. He'll lead you in the right direction, and he will help you.
Yeah, and you can also you can also go to our website at MilwaukeeMuskiesInc.com and just choose the contact us as well, and that email comes to me. So.
Okay. Now let's just ask the big question. What about the Milwaukee Harbor?
Yeah, it's a great one. That's been explored. I'd say I would call it at the scratch the surface level a couple of different times the last few years. I mean, we talked with the biologists down there, and there's it's an interesting situation because right now, as a lot of people know, the salmon stocking has been reduced, and the browns and all that's been reduced by quite a bit due to a lack of forage. So introducing a new predator while that is going on presents some public perception challenges. And I completely understand that. So they're still open. I wouldn't say that they've ever said, yeah, go ahead and do it. But they haven't also said no. So it's something that we've just kind of always had in the back of our heads. In all honesty, the biggest reason we haven't dove forward and really tried to make a go of it is money. I mean, when it comes down to it, it would be a very expensive endeavor.
Just for like the amount of fish to actually see it happen?
Right. Okay. To be effective, right? Yeah, I mean, we could dump 1,000 in there, every year, spend a lot of money, but we really don't think 1,000 would do it. It would need to be quite a bit, because they're going to spread. I mean, they're going to go a long ways.
Yes.
There's been muskies caught in the Milwaukee Harbor now that are Great Lakes strain, and boy, a lot of theories on where they all could have come from, but the odds are Green Bay.
I believe this winter,
obviously.
2 got caught in the Summerfest Lagoon this year.
Correct.
Yes.
You're correct. And then there's also been non-Great Lakes strain fish caught out there as well.
Now that's the weird one that gets me. The non-Great
Lakes. There's a number of ways that could have happened, right? I mean, someone could have thrown them in their live well and taken them for a ride down 94 and dropped them off.
I guess.
And another one is, Random Lake.
Yes.
That does connect up eventually with the Milwaukee River.
It does.
So they could make it down all the way through there. So those are kind of the two main theories on how that would have occurred.
Now,
but they're there. I mean, they're just not numbers.
No.
It'd be needle in a haystack time.
But yeah, that was ice fishing this previous year. And yes, Adam, there are giant pike in the harbor, and
oh yeah, very big.
I don't believe the muskies that were caught this ice fishing season were giant, but they were healthy fish.
Right. Yeah, I've seen pictures of at least of one of them, and very, very nice fish.
So they're there. It's just
Yeah, it's a big, expensive endeavor, and also, like I said,
the politics behind it.
With yeah, I mean, and I get it. The forage is a concern right now, so that's really what it comes down.
That's a wait and see, but man, I would love to, be able to drive 20 minutes to Milwaukee and kind of have a St. Clair atmosphere.
Oh, right. I mean, it's definitely an intriguing thought, and one that I believe it'll go on. It'll go on. That discussion and exploration will never really go away, and I think once that opportunity is there to do it,
it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think there's enough folks interested in, myself being one of them, and there's another number of other guys locally who want that to happen as well, for sure.
Unfortunately, I get seasick out there, but I mean that just means during like fall time I can go chuck big rubber instead of little spoons for salmon.
Yeah, and my theory is that everyone says they're going to spread out all over, and I'm like, I think they're going to just hang around the harbor and eat all the gobies until they clean them out. But,
and all the carp, and all the sheephead, and all the giant shad. Yeah.
Exactly. There's never-ending forage in there.
No.
They would never run out.
The occasional walleye, and then all the suckers that run up the Milwaukee River. Like, they don't have to be pelagic fish, really. But
you're right.
I've been a river rat of the Milwaukee River. I mean, up until the past couple of years, but that's all I've been doing. I know the river like pretty much the back of my hand and what you catch in there, and it's a river. And
it's a very healthy river.
Even though it's in the middle of downtown, there are a lot of fish in that river. So,
yes, there are.
But going back to the Muskies Inc., are there any events, not meetings, coming up still?
Yeah, so we're kind of getting into we have a real busy May and June, and then things start to slow down a bit. We have a big thing going on this weekend, where if anyone's going to be down at German Fest, which is also the host of the Steel Lumberjack World Championships as well, that are going to be down there at the Summerfest grounds. We'll have a Ranger boat down there. It is part of the Musky Club's Alliance of Wisconsin.
Okay.
We're a member of that alliance. And they raffle off a Ranger 1880 every year. And each club that's a member of the alliance, gets to take the boat for different periods of time, take it to events, sell tickets for it. And the great thing about this is for every $1 that we sell tickets for, we get 75 cents.
And
75 cents comes back to us, to our club, and it's turning into one of our biggest fundraisers of the year.
And then, not to get into the
a lot of money.
nitty-gritty of the financials, but that money is used towards stocking?
Yep. So what we decided to do, and we did, last year was the first year we really ever got the boat and did this. I became our alliance rep last year and decided to take a stab at this and really make a go of it and try to make some real money behind it. And that money, I don't have the exact figure in front of me, but it was around $4,000.
Okay.
Pretty good money to make in a couple of days time. So and really it's all the volunteers that came down and helped for it last year, every one of them has contacted me that they want to do it again, and we do still have some open slots available. If anyone does want to volunteer, definitely get in contact with me and be happy to get you fit in there. But it's the easiest volunteer work ever, because you don't have to engage. You don't have to sell anything. I mean, the big shiny boat sitting there
sells itself. What day? What day actually? Are you looking for a volunteer?
So we'll be there the whole, all the festivals. So Friday it goes from 3 p.m. till midnight, Saturday noon to midnight, and Sunday noon to 9. Now with that said, we're all, all us volunteers are getting older, so we may not be there all the way till midnight on each of the nights. but yeah, we'll try. I may try to call some of our younger members and see if they want to sit there till midnight. But yeah, it'll be all this weekend, and we'll be selling those raffle tickets down there. So if you're in the area and you end up heading down that way, definitely stop by, say hello to whoever's there. I unfortunately will not be at the booth the whole weekend, but I'll be there periodically throughout the weekend.
You gonna be there Friday?
I will be there Friday quite a bit. I'll be there from 3 to 6 as well as from 9 to midnight.
Okay. Well, then maybe I'll come stop down and say hi, because I'm off work.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
And I can just hang out by the booth and,
Yeah. And then as far as other events we have going on, that's just a volunteer, a non-fishing thing. But as far as fishing things going on Saturday, August 26th, we have our Veterans Outing. That's where we do a half day of fishing out on Pewaukee. I believe the hours are like 6 a.m. to noon or so, and then we have little boards and stuff after that over at Smokies. So it's a great event. If anyone does have interest, you can get in contact with myself or Craig Ader. Mm-hmm. And by interest, I mean if you'd like to be a boater that takes the folks out, that is definitely an option. We definitely can always use more volunteers. And then also, if you're a veteran and you would like to get out musky fishing for a day with someone in our club, we've got, in the past, you never know who you're going to get paired up with, because we have guides volunteer for this, and you generally with a real good fisherman. So if anyone does have interest, again, contact myself or Craig Ader, and we can get you involved in that.
Cool.
And then our last real event, aside from member outings and things, we do have a fall open championship. This is the 4th year of it. Been growing each year, get quite a bit of fun competition with it. We would love to see it grow quite a bit more. So it's a casting tournament. In the past, we had allowed live bait, but due to live bait really not making any difference in any of the results, and hearing from others that live bait was the reason they were not fishing our tournament, we decided this year to remove live bait, and hopefully some of those folks that said that will actually sign up and do the tournament this year.
Okay.
But yeah, we're just trying to build it up and get some more folks. It's we pay back. We changed even the payback. It used to be 66%. I think we bumped that up to 70%. I think we're going to add some trophies in there this year and things. So a little bit more incentive for folks to get in there and then throw their hat in the ring and see how they're doing. And the great thing is in late September, that time frame in southern Wisconsin, it is generally a fabulous casting bite.
It is.
And yeah, it's a good time to get out there and
beautiful
test your
weather.
skills out.
Yes.
Yeah, and then part of your entry fee, since we only pay back 70%, that other bit comes to the club to be used towards stocking, to pay for some of our events, put things on, speakers, things like that. We've been very fortunate the last few years that we've had a number of companies and individuals help sponsor some of our events as well. So, you know, the more money we keep making and the more people that sponsor other events, the more events we can look at doing, and, you know, maybe do a little bit more for youth in the future and things like that. So
that would be cool.
every little bit we make in those types of things really help us expand and get out there more.
And one step closer to stocking in the Milwaukee Harbor.
There you go. There you go.
Oh boy, but that's cool. And all of this information is on the Facebook of the Milwaukee chapter of Musky Inc. Correct? And I believe it's all updated on there. I'm gonna go in there tonight and make sure everything's caught up. Okay.
But yeah, it should be. But our website I know is updated. I believe Facebook is as well.
Okay. So again, Milwaukee chapters of Musky Inc. Any questions? You know, fuck it. Feel free to PM me and or Brian or email, and you know, someone will be able to answer your question and get you an answer.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So, with that, Brian, any funny boat launch stories? I don't think I've been able to ask you this yet.
I've had a couple of good ones this year. Actually, my favorite one may have been just up north this past weekend. Yeah, we made a change on Friday, lake change, and so we were coming on to a lake that, you know, gets some pleasure boat traffic.
Yeah.
And a bit of fishing pressure, but it really dies off after 5 o'clock. Everyone goes into the cabin for dinner or whatever. So we decided to go hit that lake up. My buddy, you know, dumped me in the lake, and he was parking the truck, and there was a boat taken out in the lane next to where we put in. And as soon as he started to pull away, I started yelling, "Stop, stop, stop." He didn't hear me. Well, I'm not sure he ever heard me. But his boat, he did not click the winch down, and so it was dumped onto the ramp. I have some GoPro footage. It's pretty good.
Are you gonna? You gotta upload it. You have to. You can't tell me that and not upload it. Okay.
I will be.
All right.
And yeah, he got it winched back up, but it wouldn't go all the way. It just, so he had to back it up into the water again to get it to go all the way. And in the process, the winch failed again. So as he was backing up again, he dumped it onto the ramp in the water.
No.
So just yeah. So and the best part of this story is it was a 2015 Ranger 619. So when I say it was dumped and couldn't get it all the way, I'm saying it was pretty shocking to see him actually be able to winch it back on there like that.
Oh, it wasn't like a little,
times that he did.
you know, up north little rig or anything. No. It was a hefty rig.
We could not believe that he was able to winch it back on there. It was just shocking, but it was amazing.
And you got video. That's the best part.
Those, you know, and it was a very steep launch. And in all reality, I don't know if the guy was used to. I don't know what the deal was, and maybe he just didn't lock it until he usually got flat. But it was way too steep to trust your bunks. There's no doubt about that. So that was my favorite one, and it just happened like 3 days ago.
All right. Well, on that note, you're going to go to your GoPro, and you're going to upload that. And then you're going to...
Yeah, I'm actually going to go launch my boat. I'm going to go...
Oh, yeah, I forgot. All right. Brian, thanks for everything. And
you bet.
We'll see you soon, and good luck. Let me know how you do, bud.
Thanks. Later.
Adios. Oh, now we got too many screens. Oh. 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 619 on the boat ramp. That is not cool. Well, that'd be interesting. That'd be cool if he'd be able to get one of those DNR people to come speak at one of the meetings. I'd like to actually hear their side of the stocking and everything like that. All right. Up next, Mr. Brian J. Klein. Will he answer?
Hello, this is Brian.
Hey, Brian, it's Colin with Musky Talk.
Hey, Colin. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. Got off the phone with Brian Mirek, and now it's the other Brian's turn.
Oh, yeah, Brian and Brian.
So, first off, how's your year going so far, Musky-wise, and Wisconsin Musky-wise?
So far, it's been a pretty good season. Most of, the early Wisconsin stuff, most of that I'm doing inland. We did a little bit of stuff up in Green Bay, and that was pretty good to start the season in May. And then most of June, I've been fishing inland stuff. Southeast Wisconsin, Okauchee, Oconomowoc, Pewaukee.
Yep.
And been spending some time up in Vilas County. That was pretty good.
Okay, all right. Now, one of the bigger reasons why I wanted to have you come on the show, you're a well-traveled musky angler. And earlier this year, you were out west. That was Idaho, correct? Or Wyoming?
That was Utah.
Utah. Okay. And that's what I really wanted to dive deep into, because as we all know, the musky waters are expanding into odd locations, such as like New Mexico, for example. And
right.
Us, in the musky, home states of, the Great Lakes. How is it out there? Is it weird being in, those states and catching muskies?
It's certainly a pretty unique situation out there. I grew up in Wisconsin, fishing inland muskies all my life. That's what I started doing, and that's, what I've been doing. And to be able to go out there, and I haven't done any of the other states other than Utah. I got some good friends out there that invited me out to Utah to fish, so that's where I've been going. But, there's a lot of those new tiger fisheries popping up, and it's pretty cool to be able to be out there in the mountains and, catch tiger muskies. That's not something that, most Midwest guys get to see, and it's definitely a unique experience. It's cool to be able to go out there and catch those tigers, and a lot of people out west are just getting into musky fishing, and now that these fisheries are kind of popping up and becoming viable musky catching waters, it's neat to see a lot of new interest coming from some of those western guys that have been traditionally trout fishermen or walleye fishermen or whatever. Seeing them move into the musky community is kind of a cool thing as well.
Now, I'm not asking exactly for secrets or anything like that, but do they do things different out there since they are so far away from like the musky home waters? Obviously, they have some influence, for example, baits and patterns and techniques, but being so far away and, like you said, in the mountains, catching musky, do they do things a little bit different out there?
Well, nowadays with social media and the internet in general, it's pretty interesting to see because so many people now are up to speed on a lot of the latest tactics or, there's a lot more knowledge out there and readily available than there ever used to be. So, the internet has definitely changed musky fishing in a big way, and I think it certainly affects the Western atmosphere as well. I mean, a lot of those guys are taking techniques that guys are using or have been using for muskies for years in the Midwest. They're starting to use those tactics on tigers, and certainly a lot of those are paying off. I think every year that I've been out there 3 times now, and every year I go out, you're seeing a little bit wider variety of tactics, and guys may be using baits that you don't traditionally think of as tiger baits. A lot of guys have that stigma that those Western tigers will only eat small baits, and there's a lot of guys out there that are experimenting and finding out that Absolutely not. They'll eat big rubber. They'll eat a 10 or 12-inch crankbait as well. I mean, they're still a muskie. They're still an apex predator fish, and even though certainly a lot of small baits do work out there, it's kind of interesting to see that evolution of guys kind of getting out of their comfort zone and trying other techniques that certainly work elsewhere in the country or in the world. Certainly Canadians and Minnesota guys for years have been well known for big baits, and you're seeing a little bit more of that out west, I think, every year, and more people are trying the musky fishing game. And, the biggest battle out there, too, is it's like anywhere, you're trying to educate maybe non-musky fishermen who are going to go target muskies, and you want to make sure that they've got, the right equipment. And that's a big thing that Muskies Inc. is doing out there. Chapter 65 was started out there, too, in Utah, and then that's a big step for them. There's a lot of education that comes along, and that particular chapter is doing a great job of educating the public and working with the local tackle stores to make sure that they have the right equipment in there so that when people are targeting muskies, we're not killing them, and educating the public about warm water temperatures and having the right rods and having the right net and the right release tools. I mean, nowadays on social media, you see so much of that, but 20 years ago, it was word of mouth, and it's the people that you fished with and magazine articles. There wasn't so much interactive knowledge like there is nowadays that's readily available.
So the internet's pretty good for that, and obviously spreading that good information that we need to learn. You don't need hook cutters when you're trout fishing. It's
right. Well, and it can be good and bad. There's a lot of bad information out there too, but there's a lot more access to all those different tactics and opportunities of tools that you can use out there.
So my question, I believe it was actually on a question on the flea market possibly a couple of weeks ago, and it got me thinking about the difference between tigers and purebred muskies, and obviously if you're fishing in New Mexico, it's hot. It's a lot hotter than Minnesota and Wisconsin. Does the temperature affect tiger muskies any different than the normal strain, quote unquote, purebred muskies?
Well, I'm not necessarily the right guy to answer that. But one of the things that Chapter 65 in Ogden in Utah is working on is working with some of the fisheries biologists to study tigers a little more and get that information. There's not a whole lot of info out there on tigers, and that's something that they're starting to implement there in Utah, as well as doing a lot more of the fin clipping and the tagging of the tigers, because there seems to be a lot of discussion out there about how long these tigers are living, what their growth rates are, and so I think they're really just starting to get into what kind of dissolved oxygen levels and temperature levels are safe for muskies. Right now the consensus out there seems to be pretty similar to the way it is here, where when you're reaching that upper 70s and 80-degree mark, you really shouldn't be fishing with them. And if you are, you do your best to make it a night fishing ordeal and, keep them in the water as much as possible. And, they're not doing any tagging in the increased temperatures either, because they don't want to cause any extra stress to the fish. So I guess the answer to that is we're not really sure. And sounds like they're on the right path to trying to get some of those answers. And hopefully, like anything else, every year, we get more and more information.
Okay. So they're kind of just sticking with our what we kind of go by out this way with, like you said, the high 70s, 80 degrees, kind of just stop or slow down or stuff like that.
Right. Yep. I would say it's pretty much on par with the same things that we're trying to do around here, is just educating everyone to be aware when that temperature gets up there. I mean, we all know how it goes, and but we want to try to protect them as much as possible. So if it means fishing at night when the temperatures dip down into the mid 70s, and maybe you got to get off the water by 11 o'clock instead of fishing all day.
Yeah. Okay. So with at least for bass, all right, we got largemouth bass up here. You go down in Florida, they got largemouth bass, but they're a lot bigger. Okay, now granted, muskies are a little bit of a cold water fish. Do you think that year-round warmth, increasing their metabolism, could lead to bigger tigers than what we have out here?
I certainly think the potential is there. I guess I don't really know enough about it to be able to say one way or the other, but those fish do appear to grow fast. There's definitely a ton of forage for them. A lot of those reservoirs that they're stocking are, they're stocking reservoirs based on available forage or trying to control invasives. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that those fisheries biologists are doing, is that they're utilizing tigers to help control some of those species. So I definitely think the potential is there to be seeing some really truly giant tigers coming from out west.
Okay.
There was a mega tiger caught out there that fits some really nice tigers, and mm-hmm. certainly Wisconsin and Minnesota does as well. So I don't know that you're going to see anything necessarily larger scale, bigger than we're seeing here as well, but the potential's definitely there. Those reservoirs have incredible numbers, and they're all tigers. That's the cool thing. So a lot of these fisheries, as they start to mature, hopefully we will start seeing some truly epic giants coming out of those waters.
I hope so. I mean, with growing up in Wisconsin my whole life, muskie and deer hunting, they're kind of boring if you have any outdoorsmen in your family.
Yep, that's right.
Out west, that culture is yet to be born yet. They're just starting to first see that now. So I believe possibly that under fishing, so to say, that culture that's not there yet, I think that could also add to the the caliber of fish that you might be able to see out there in years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. There's and I've only got limited experience out there. I go out there on vacation and try to spend a week out there every year, but I'm seeing more and more on the social media end too. A lot of the younger generation starting to get into musky fishing out there where they really didn't have those opportunities before. So it's neat to see people that are now able to access some of those fisheries and experience a sport that hasn't always been as strong. And I think we're seeing that everywhere. I mean, the catch and release is incredible. I mean, bottom line is that we all know it works.
Yes.
We're seeing big fish being caught over and over again, and people are able to connect and look back and say, hey, I caught that fish in May of last year, and oh, look at that, it grew 3/4 of an inch and gained an inch and a half of girth. I mean, yep. It's cool to be able to look back on that stuff, and especially out west now with a lot of the tagging programs, you're going to be seeing a lot more of that, and I think that helps people realize how well that catch and release does pay off when you're starting to see tag numbers being caught. Yes. 3, 4, and 5 times, and some of these fish were only tagged a couple months ago, and they've already been caught 3 or 4 times. That really helps you see firsthand that catch and release is working.
Oh, of course, and it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, so, kind of like Pineview Reservoir, which is the reservoir I fished out there. That's strictly catch and release. You cannot keep any tiger muskies out of there.
That's cool.
Yep.
Do you know why they stocked it in there? Is it for the invasive purpose or whatnot?
I don't know what the original reason there was. Okay. There's a lot of guys out in that area that would know a lot more about it than I do, but I know that some of those reservoirs are stocking to cut down on some of the carp species and some of the other invasives the non-natives that have taken over, and trying to find that predator-prey balance where we can maintain a good fishery and hopefully help out with some of that environmental end as well.
Cool. I like that a lot. So
absolutely.
A little bit, like you said, you're limited knowledge, which is cool. I just, you're the first person that I've talked to that's actually been out that way and fished for him, so I had to ask you some questions.
Sure.
So, trolling, is that your preferred method of catching muskies, or is that a tool?
Well, certainly both. It's definitely my favorite. I'm pretty well known as a troller. I mean, that's my preferred method. I think it's the most effective for most scenarios. Mm-hmm. the method that I prefer. I enjoy it more. A lot of guys prefer to catch fish casting, and that's cool. I certainly enjoy catching fish casting, and I do a lot of casting throughout the year. But if I can troll them, I would prefer to catch them trolling. So yeah, I spend a lot of my season dragging lines.
No, nothing wrong with that. Last 2 episodes ago, I was talking to Jacob Grabowski, and trolling's been on my mind ever since that talk. And so, any more information I can gather, because I know it's kind of it's a completely different world compared to casting.
Yeah, it certainly can be, but one of the things about trolling is trolling opens a lot of doors for information as well, and a lot of my best casting spots were found trolling. Some of those were reaffirmed by trolling. There's a lot of times where you can, if you take a look at your casting results and you lay them on top of your trolling results, a lot of times that can really help you establish a pattern. And it's like any other tool. Whether you're trolling, jigging, casting, they're all pieces of the puzzle. And to me, the more information that I can put together and the more statistics and the more things that I can put patterns to, it just helps you, makes you a more efficient angler. The more scenarios that you can look at and say, I remember doing this and that, and put that all together, it just makes you a better musky angler, and it helps you put more fish in the bag.
Very true. That's why I want to. I've been diving into trolling a little bit more and taking it a little bit more seriously than just screw it. It's 3 o'clock. It's hot as hell out. Let's go troll for a little bit. So like I said, Jacob got me on that little kick.
Yep, there's a lot of guys that just use trolling as a time killer, and then that's fine if you need a break. But there's certainly a lot to trolling, and if you think you're just tying a bait on and driving around, you're really missing the boat there. And obviously, it's just another tool, and you don't have to troll every day. But boy, there are certain times of the year or certain conditions where I wouldn't want to be doing anything else.
Would you be able to name a couple of those conditions or times of the year? Personally, for you?
Well, typically, late fall. Late fall is a prime time where I want to be trolling. I want to be covering a lot of water. You can certainly cast, but it also can get real uncomfortable when it's 0 degrees and it's the end of the season.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to cast all day. Most guys can't do it. There's a lot of things you can do to help yourself, but bottom line is trolling helps you stay on the water longer. And trolling, you keep your bait in the water. You're not pulling it out to cast. The only time that bait's coming out of the water is to swap or to pull weeds off it. So, you're covering a lot more water and you're using your time more efficiently if you're trolling the right areas. Now, there's a lot to be said for driving around and wasting your time too, but trolling can definitely help you dial in some of those key spots or key areas.
Now, is there?
You'll typically see me trolling. You'll typically see me trolling pretty nonstop from about September on, unless of course we're sucker fishing. We do some, I do a little bit of casting yet, but most of my late season stuff is all trolling.
Okay. So, was there ever a moment for you, first of all, did you ever get taught by someone firsthand about trolling, or did you learn it kind of on your own? Maybe talking to a couple guys or anything like that. How did you learn about trolling?
Well, for me, it's been a culmination over the years. I've been fishing a long time, and certainly musky fishing a long time. But I kind of learned how to troll and walleyes, and you kind of took what I knew there and started applying it to musky trolling. And every time you fish with somebody new, you kind of pick up tricks or tactics or something that this guy does that you really like. I learned from a buddy of mine that used to use big treble hooks, cut the tips off and use those for a weed catcher ahead of your bait. Well, that was something I certainly never thought of, and I've been doing that now for a decade, and it works great, and it's one of the things that I use if I've got a lot of floating and string weeds, because I don't care if that hook will catch them. As long as my bait's still running through, I'll get bit. So there's a lot of little trips, the things I pick up from different people that, it helps you put it all together and establish a pattern.
Okay. Now, with all those tips and tricks, and like you said, you have a past experience with walleye and trolling like that. For muskies, at least, was there ever a moment in time where, like an aha moment, not necessarily saying that you figured out how to troll for muskies all the time or anything like that, but did you ever have an aha moment when it came to muskies, or maybe developed your first pattern?
Well, I don't know that I can necessarily think of a specific time, but to me, anytime you get a muskie trolling, it's kind of an aha moment. You always learn something different, or, they did eat that bait, or, I was running that bait quite a bit shallower than I thought I needed to, and it still got bit. Sometimes you'll catch a fish doing something that you didn't necessarily expect to do, and it kind of teaches you something like, you go out to all of a sudden, let's just say you're trolling a weed edge because you're expecting to be on that break. Mm-hmm. And, you make a big wide swing out to make a turnaround, and all of a sudden you're out in 80 foot of water and you got a bait down 3 feet that gets bit. Well, then it makes you think, oh, okay, well, maybe they're not related to that break, Maybe they're out in this open water chasing these bait pods around. Huh. And next thing you know, you start exploring that, and all of a sudden you're on an open water bite and you've got, 10 fish in the bag and it's noon. It's things like that you stumble on stuff that you might not have necessarily thought was going to happen. It taught you something that fish were doing something different than you expected them to do.
Okay. So last question, and then I got two very important questions for you. So, speed. Can you give us newbie trollers a kind of a baseline speed to start at?
Yeah, well, I'm typically a pretty slow troller. A lot of musky guys, they tell me I'm trolling too slow, but I usually like to start out at roughly 2.8, 3 miles an hour, and that's typically my starting point, and I go from there. I've caught muskies anywhere from 1.5 all the way up to 5.5, but oh, wow. I'm typically on the slower spectrum. I would say most guys have most of their success in that 4 to 5 mile an hour range, and that's a little different than me. I typically, I would say the majority of my summer bites come right around that 3.5 speed. So speed is one of those things that's definitely a variable you should be playing around with. Start slow, start fast, and if you think you've got the right bait on and you're in the right area and you're not getting bit, speed is one of those variables that definitely may be making the difference. Speed it up, slow it down. The other thing with speed to keep in mind is that as you're turning the boat, your outside lines are speeding up and your inside lines are slowing down. So, if you're in a big turn and your inside line gets bit, even though your boat speed is telling you you're going 3.5,
your bait was slower.
That bait probably wasn't doing 3.5. It was probably doing something less. So that might be an indicator that, hey, maybe I should try slowing down a little. Or vice versa, if your outside board gets bit or your outside line, that bait was probably going faster than your boat trying to catch up. So sometimes where you get bit will tell you a little bit of insight into what your speed needs to be doing as well.
Okay. Because that whole speed thing, it's a wide spectrum, and I just kind of would like a starting point. So
yeah, it really is. A lot of that depends on the baits you're using, and some of that stuff will vary between time of day. I typically tend to whatever I'm getting bit at during the day, I typically tend to tune that back a little bit at night. Now, some guys do that differently, but I tend to find that trolling a little slower at night gets me more bites than trolling faster.
Okay. Duly noted for that. So now to the important questions, Brian. Louis Lunn already asked them. How does Brian maintain that magnificent beard while traveling the countryside?
Of course, yeah, the beard. Well, that's the beauty of a beard. You don't have to maintain it. It's just there.
All right.
It's just manly.
Perfect. And then the other question was, What's more fun, hashtag Z or Sucker Time Fuckfest?
That must have been a Joe Murphy question.
No, that was a Louis Lund question again.
That was a Louis question as well, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I prefer trolling. I like the break and doing some sucker fishing with friends in the fall, but I'm a troller first and foremost. So for me, it's always a trolling bite.
All right, so there's your guys' answers. And then my last question for you, Brian, is can you tell us your funniest boat launch experience?
Funniest boat launch experience? I've seen a lot of stupid things at boat launches over the years. I watched a couple kids actually with a like one of those wakeboarder boats.
Yeah.
I watched these guys back this big rig in, and I saw it coming. Well, they never unstrapped the back, so I watched the whole boat come all the way in, and the whole thing is actually floating. It's floating, the trailer, everything. I watched this guy. He spent 20-plus minutes holding his breath and diving underwater, trying to unlatch his boat, rather than just pulling 15 feet back forward and unlatching it.
Why would...
I would say that was one of my favorites.
Why? Oh my God! Why would...
If you want to see funny boat launch stories, Memorial Day and Labor Day are usually your two best bets. Although 4th of July is right up there as well.
Yeah, I missed them this year. I gotta Labor Day. I might have to make a pit stop at Smokies and watch the fun.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, thanks for coming on. Thanks for shedding some light on some of the Western scene with the Muskies and giving me a little bit more information and the viewers about some trolling.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be here. Thanks.
All right, Brian, take care.
All right, bye.
Bye. All right. So we got some information. That whole Western scene, and even the Eastern scene a little bit more. I do believe that the Eastern scene is a little bit more progressed. But like I said, some of those states are now stocking tiger muskies out west. It's a different. I would like to do that. That would be very, very cool. So I think I'd like to get someone from one of those states to come on and talk a little bit more about that. So if you guys have any recommendations for that, that'd be awesome, because I don't know, I'll probably just watch The Flea or something like that and find my next guest. That's how I usually do it. So sorry about last week. About Joe Peterson was at ICAST. He said very, very spotty signal, so we didn't do it. He's currently busy with personal things right now, but sooner or later he'll be coming back on. He'll be coming on, and he'll give us the full detail about ICAST and any new musky products that are out there that we haven't heard of yet. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys, and yeah. Oh, one thing. Did a trade with Todd Harvey Bates. Not Todd Harvey, wow. But Todd over at Harvey Bates. Very, very sick glide. I forget, this is one of his newer models. So shout out to Todd. Thanks, bud. And your bait will get to you before you go to Canada. So that's it, guys. Until next week, and then next week we'll have more everything slime in prime time. Adios, mi amigos.